Hi there, welcome to episode 57 of Paranormal Blip. And essentially, this is a rolling news story now. um, look, a lot to cover in the next couple of moments. First of all, I'm going to lay out what it is that we're going to be discussing in episode 57. And of course, this is off the back of Grush and, other developments in the UAP world. So this also links to Kirkpatrick saying, publicly at that NASA meeting that was aired, that just a couple of weeks before that meeting, he had participated in a Five Eyes briefing or meeting about UAPs. Now, Five Eyes is the intelligence and defense departments of 5 countries who collaborate on a kind of broad range of different, aspects of defense and intelligence. And those 5 countries are the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. So we are going to be talking about a letter that was released by Corbell and Knapp on their podcast Weaponized, and you can find a link to the episode of Weaponized and to the letter in the episode description. Obviously, you expect nothing less of me. So we're going to be discussing that letter. We're going to be looking at an article that has come out in the Liberation Times today by Christopher Sharp, talking about that letter. And then we're going to look at a timeline put up by a UFO Twitter user called Brian Johnson to start to kind of think about, what's going on here in the last couple of months and weeks and months and years. And then we're going to look at Avi Loeb's Medium writing that he's doing for Medium, which is a writing platform, which are field notes of a kind of ongoing research trip that he's doing at the moment. Okay, so that now, in a very sober and sensible way, some would say somber way, I've laid out the ducks, haven't I? No, I have done that. Is that what you do with ducks? Oh no, I've got my ducks in order. Yeah, I haven't laid them out. I've put my ducks, like up until the point where I talked about the ducks, it was going really professional, like, wasn't it? Anyway, here's the bumps. So on Sunday night on Talk TV, this guy called Howard Hughes does a show called The Unexplained. And I've got a feeling that Howard Hughes has been kind of doing this for a long, long time. And he had Ross Coulthard on as a guest to talk about, the Grush interview. And so it's just the Sunday that's just gone, the 18th of June. And Ross said something that really pricked my ears. And here he is.
But what you need to understand, Howard, is your government, the British government, is deeply involved in this cover-up. They have retrieved craft with the US government. They're intimately involved in essentially a foreign exploitation retrieval program, not just of foreign adversaries' technology, but of technology that is indeed not of this world.
So there's Ross there saying that the UK is involved in a foreign exploitation retrieval program. Okay, I heard that. I thought, that's quite interesting, because as listeners to this show, you'll know that I have been, deeply suspicious of the absolute silence from the UK government. And there was a debate in the House of Lords, it was about 18 months ago, and the position of the Lord, who was, or the member of the House of Lords, who was answering on behalf of the government of the day, said that UAPs pose no such risk, and therefore there's no point investigating them. That's essentially the kind of line that that they had, which kind of stunk to high heaven, basically, didn't it? So you can imagine my excitement when I heard that. So then also on Sunday night in the United States, George Knapp, he's doing Coast to Coast, which he occasionally does. I'm not sure if he does it every Sunday, but he certainly does it occasionally. And he was speaking to his friend and collaborator, Jeremy Corbell. And Jeremy Corbell was talking about Five Eyes. And he was saying, there are some countries who are wanting to kind of like think about their perception of how the population perceives them in relation to the UAPs. So and he said something like, we'll get more information in 24 to 48 hours. So lo and behold, at 8 a.m. UK time this morning, and I think it's 12 midnight in Los Angeles, 8 hours behind British summertime. They did their latest episode of Weaponized, and they released a letter from Larry Maguire, who's an MP for this place in Manitoba called Brandon-Souris. Sounds very nice. And Larry has got this extraordinary letterhead where he's there kind of posing in front of the Canadian flag, and there's a massive kind of monster-sized bit of corn, and then there's other cornfields, and there's like silos, I think, which is kind of interesting in terms of UAP research. Silos in the distance. And this is a letter that is linked, I've said that once already. And so I'm going to read the letter. Larry Maguire, MP, Brandon-Souris, that's the kind of letterhead, the very fancy kind of graphicked up letterhead that Larry has. March 22, 2023. So March the 22nd. Don't know why I said March 22 then. Nobody says that. So that's, what's that? 3 months ago, okay? 3 months ago. March 22nd, 2023. RE, Defence Research and Development Canada, is in possession of recovered UAP material. Dear Minister Anand, so this is going to the Minister Anand. It has come to my attention through meetings with American officials that the United States Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and Senate Committee on Armed Services have been undertaking in-camera hearings with government and military subject matter experts on the recovery and exploitation of physical material from unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP. I am concerned that expected upcoming public announcements will be coordinated between what's known as AUKUS, I think I'm pronouncing that right, which is AUKUS, which is a kind of conglomeration of the initials, or certainly the kind of letters that what's the words? Mean, that's the word, mean, Australia, the United Kingdom, and the US, and AUKUS, which is very difficult to say. I mean, it actually literally sounds like the word awkward. It's very awkward to say AUKUS. Anyway, AUKUS is a new strategic kind of defence alliance by Australia and between Australia, the UK, and the US, involving a massive amount of money, hundreds of billions of dollars between Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. Okay, so Canada is saying, this guy from Canada, I should say, not all of Canada, is saying, I'm concerned that expected upcoming public announcements will be coordinated between AUKUS, which could damage Canada's credibility with our allies and the Canadian public on the global stage. There's an opportunity to have a prepared communication plan in place by May 2023 to reduce this risk. So let's just stop and pause and get a handle on what it is that this guy is writing to his minister about. Expected upcoming public announcements. Now remember that when we jump over to Brian Johnson and think about all of the rumours and the suspicions that we've heard for the last couple of months, and then think about what we learnt just a couple of weeks ago with Grush. Yeah? So very interesting. This was from March. As Minister of National Defence, you may not be aware Defence Research and Development Canada, DRDC, has participated in efforts to analyse UAP, which is publicly traceable to circa 1950. This recovered foreign material is studied through the Five Eyes Foreign Material Programme, FMP. So now we know that the Five Eyes, this, 5 nations who work together in terms of defence and intelligence, they've got a foreign material program. And that's what Ross was alluding to when he said that the UK and the United States are collaborating in a foreign extraction retrievals program. I think that's the words that he used. So that's really interesting. So we've got a collaboration between these 5 countries working together on essentially retrieving UAP. Yep, crashed and landed. Do you remember this is what Grush said a couple of weeks ago? Crashed and landed. So going back to the letter, which in Canada is sponsored by the Canadian Forces Intelligence Command, aligned with several intelligence sharing arrangements and treaties. I'm writing to recommend you request a classified briefing containing full sensitive and protected program information from your officials on the Government of Canada's historical and ongoing efforts on analysing recovered UAP material. So in the first 3 paragraphs, I mean, this is absolutely, I described it as bombshell, and then I saw that Chris Sharp at the Liberation Times had put up an article also calling it bombshell. Chris, I agree. This is a bombshell letter. Like in the first 3 paragraphs, we found out that, Canada has got a UAP program. And like it's a historic going back to the 1950s, and it's still working. And not only that, but the people, some folk in kind of the Canadian government and Parliament, are in contact with, the people in the Senate committees who are looking into UAPs in the United States, and we find out that the Five Eyes Foreign Material Program exists. I mean, that's not bad for 3 paragraphs, is it? Canada's Chief Science Advisor has also launched the Sky for Canada project, which is investigating how the Government of Canada manages UAP reports. They are in the process of identifying key Canadian stakeholder institutions. It is essential the Chief Science Advisor be given full access to defence programs and be briefed on the collaborative scientific research efforts with our allies. It is imperative the Government of Canada have a communications plan to respond to these upcoming public revelations that will stem from these American FMPs, which is the Foreign Material Programs. Not only are there national security and aviation safety concerns that need to be addressed, but there will also be a larger debate about why there is a lack of transparency and accountability regarding UAP programs and policy. I also believe there must be parliamentary oversight of efforts by government institutions, and responsible ministers should be fully briefed on this program, including releasable to the public content that aligns with Allied public disclosures. It is incumbent your department inform you of what collaborative efforts have occurred with our allies and the details of existing agreements and memorandums of understanding that govern the program and may have been coordinated through global affairs. Canada's credibility with our allies and the Canadian public must transcend politics, and I firmly believe we can work together in a bipartisan manner. Regardless of the classified details of specific FMPs, the public revelations by these subject matter experts who have testified before Congress present an opportunity for the Government of Canada to take a visible leadership role in confirming the existence of recovered material and balancing our national security obligations. I look forward to your response, and if you seek any further information, please do not hesitate to contact me directly. Sincerely, Larry Maguire, MP, Brandon-Souris, CC, a whole bunch of people, including Michael Wright. And Jeremy Corbell was saying, oh, yeah, mate, I've heard about Michael Wright. I know about him. So that's really absolutely extraordinary. So we have confirmation now. I mean, this is, this is what could be described as a smoking gun. I don't think it's too hyperbolic to call this a smoking gun, okay? Sitting MP in Canada, a letter has been leaked. I don't know what the kind of, the Corbell and Knapp don't talk too much about whether they're leaking it. They did say they haven't spoken to Larry Maguire and they want to, but I don't know if they have some kind of permission or whether they are leaking it in terms of, this is their journalistic kind of right to leak information in the public interest, which it clearly is. But, this is a letter that was written 3 months ago by a current member of the Canadian Parliament that has these extraordinary revelations in it. So let's take a look at Liberation Times. This story is also linked. Bombshell letter reveals Canadian politicians' concerns of covert UFO programs involving Canada and Five Eyes Alliance. In a bombshell letter, Canadian politician Larry Maguire has urged Canada's Minister of National Defence to request a briefing which could verify that Canada and the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance are involved in a secretive program concerning the recovery and exploitation of materials originating from unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP. And actually, there's some more information here about AUKUS. Announced in 2021, AUKUS is a security pact in the Asia-Pacific region, widely regarded as an initiative aimed at countering China's influence. The foundation of AUKUS rests upon facilitating the sharing of sensitive technology between the US and the UK with Australia. This collaboration enables Australia to construct its inaugural fleet of nuclear-powered submarines as a strategic response to the growing Chinese threat. It would be really interesting to see, what does Maguire say? What are the people in the letter who are, we have their names, what do they say about this? What's going to happen? This is a breaking news story today. So it's going to be really interesting to see the next couple of, days and weeks, and how it plays out. So now we're going to take a look at a Twitter thread by Brian Johnson that was put up on Friday. I think it was the 17th of June. Was that Friday? I think it was. Brian Johnson's really good, and this is linked in the episode description. So follow Brian. He's a big part of UFO Twitter. So here it goes. It says, "There's nothing to see here. 1. Tom DeLong meets with secret keepers who express wishes for disclosure and want to use Tom to help initiate the process. 2. Elizondo and Mellon leak, in quotation marks, 3 UAP vids and get New York Times to print story about ATIP and lose resignation. 3. Eric Davis talks about the crash. talks about crash retrievals on podcasts and states, quote, US is in possession of off-world craft not made by human hands in New York Times article. 4. First public UFO study in 51 years published with conclusion that UFOs are real. 5. Former Presidents Obama and Clinton, former CIA Directors Brennan and Woolsey, and former DNI Clapper and Ratcliffe all state UFOs are real in coordinated campaign to translate UAPTF, UAP Task Force study results into understandable jargon. 6. Brennan says, quote, another form of life is most likely a hypothesis. 7. Mellon says, quote, alien hypothesis best fits the facts. 8. Elizondo, Davis, Semivan, Ramirez, and Nolan take turns on podcasts and lay out a bevy of disclosure items between 2018 and 2022, including Roswell happened, we have biological samples of aliens, we can shoot UAP out of the sky, some NHI are non-corporeal, telepathy and movement through solids are alien abilities, they can turn on and off nuclear weapons, Italy UFO crash in 1930s was real, we are in the middle of the food chain, our origin story is incorrect, abductions and implants are real, Earth is not our planet, whistleblowers prepared to testify about cover-up, crash retrievals of alien craft and alien bodies and alien technology. Wowee. 9. House Intelligence hearing on UAP. 10. UAP legislation passed into law for very first time with whistleblower protections, ordered to get files going back to 1945, and new UAP office named Arrow. 11. Senate hearing on UAP. 12. Public NASA meeting on UAP. 13. Space Force admits UAP are global. 14. Air Force admits it sees UAP. 15. Arrow admits anomalous metallic spheres seen globally. 16. 30 plus whistleblowers provide testimony to Congress Arrow in first 5.5 months since the whistleblower thingamajig was, made into law. I imagine that's what that means. First 5.5 months. 17. First whistleblower goes public, and David Charles Grush, with approval from DOPSA, which we spoke about in the episode, states a 90-year cover-up of NHI, first crash 1933 Italy, quote, quite a number of UFO crashes, some humans injured by radiation, some injured and killed by NHI, insinuates Roswell happened, suggests US signed agreements, S in brackets, agreements with NHI, states humans have been killed to maintain cover-up, theorizes into the dimensional nature of UAP, states bodies have been recovered and sophisticated disinformation campaign is operating against populace, but there's nothing to see here. Kind of querying emoji face, tearing with laughter emoji face, tearing with laughter emoji face, and then UFO hashtag UFO Twitter, hashtag UAP Twitter, yeah. So apart from a couple of times when I probably would have given a little bit more info, like for instance, we have biological samples of aliens. I mean, that aliens word is obviously quite disputed, isn't it? And so that's why the kind of language has now gone to NHI, which includes things like, kind of basically different theories that you all know about, like the ultra-terrestrials and blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 the interdimensionals and blah, blah, blah. And also, what was the other thing? Oh, yeah, Earth is not our planet. I mean, I don't know what Brian means by that. I think what he means is that Earth isn't originally our planet, if you see what I mean. In that there is another R. There are the others, like in Lost, the others, or like in Chains of the Sea as well, they call them the others there. The others were here before us. I think that's what he's getting at there. But anyway, that's the kind of by the by. It's a very, very good summary of where we've come from in the last, less than 10 years, So yeah, really fascinating stuff. And now we're going to look at Avi Loeb. So finally, a bit of a heads up, really. If you're not following Avi Loeb's research notes, his field notes from the kind of field research that he's doing at the moment, looking for fragments of IM1, which is an interstellar meteorite, the first ever interstellar meteorite that we know about, at least, then it's worth doing. And basically what he's doing is, I think he's off the coast of, is it Indonesia or Papua New Guinea, somewhere in that kind of, part of town. And he's on a boat and he's got this massive magnet with him and a crew of helpers and, kind of other scientists, not just helpers, but other experts. And he's got lots of equipment in order to analyze what they find. And what they're doing is they're doing these runs whereby they're dragging the huge magnet down to the bottom of the kind of ocean, or maybe not to the bottom of it, but certainly kind of deep down. And this is the part of the ocean where I think it's the US Department of Defense has kind of worked out that this meteorite, this interstellar meteorite, kind of crashed into the ocean. Yeah. So it's fascinating. And the thing about Avi is that he's writing like twice a day. It's really brilliant, a live project that if you're not following it, then it's definitely worth following. So as an example, I'll choose a bit kind of quite an interesting one, which was a couple of days ago, right? So this is this is actually just yesterday. He's doing let's see, so he did one 3 hours ago, 15 hours ago, 23 hours ago, and then another one like yesterday, or just yesterday, and then another one yesterday as well. So he's every kind of 10 hours or so, he's kind of updating it. Right, here we go. So this is called "We Recovered Shock-Resisting Steel in the Debris Field of the First Recognized Interstellar Meteor, IM1." All right, so there is. Now there's always some really good photos of him and of his crew as well. So here we go. So at the moment they're on run 10. Okay, so they're reporting on run 10 now. So they're not mucking about. This was only a couple of days ago they did this. And this is their analysis of run 6. Yep. So what they do is they do the magnetic sled across the ocean floor, like a little bit of it, bring it up, obviously check it, and then they analyze anything that looks, interesting or surprising. Okay. So this is from run 6. It says, on run 6 of the magnetic sled through the lightly crashed site of the first recognized interstellar meteor, IM1, the expedition research team recovered shards of corroded iron. At first, we thought it may be common industrial iron associated with human-made ocean trash, but when Ryan Weed ran the sample of shards through the X-ray fluorescence analyzer, the most likely alloy it flagged is S5 steel with titanium, which is also known as shock-resisting steel. The yield strength of S5 steel, 1.7 GPa, is well above that of iron meteorites. This is consistent with the fact that IM1 was tougher in material strength than all other 272 meteors in the CNEOS catalogue of NASA. Let's just find out what CNEOS means. Center for Near-Earth Object Studies. That's good, isn't it? From the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Look at this. This is fantastic, man. I love it. Fireballs reported by US government sensors. 1988. So April the 15th, 1988 to May the 20th, 2023. It's interesting, isn't it? And there's a map, and it's yeah, and there's like a really big one there. When was that? What's that one? Essentially, I'm looking at a map of the world, and there's like lots and lots of little blue dots on this map, and then there's quite a few bigger yellow dots, and then there's one massive red dot in the middle of Russia. Let's click on that, and what does that? Oh, you can't click on it. It just says, well, I don't know what that means. I mean, it's just like numbers. Anyway, very exciting. It's very exciting. Anyway, so let's get back to the thing. So that's what Center for Near Earth Objects. Yeah, is that what it stands for? I've forgotten now already. Yeah, object studies. Yeah, that's it. So most importantly, the shape of the recovered shards is nearly flat, as if they were surface layers broken off from a technological object which experienced extreme material stress. Iron meteorites break into smaller pieces which are melted by the fireball into cephalls that rain down and are recovered in strewn fields as nearly spherical fragments. It is possible that the fireball of IM-1 resulted from the breakup of surface layers, and the core of the object survived entry through the atmosphere as expected for spacecraft. As it turns out, the magnetic sled bumped into a solid object in Run 6, but this encounter was not captured by the sled's camera because it ran out of batteries. Today, Run 7 recovered additional iron shards along the path separated from Run 6 by a few kilometres. This indicates that the shards are not associated with a single wreck site, but rather constitute a wide debris field consistent with an IM-1 origin. And so then it kind of goes on to talk more about this very strong metal, this shock-resisting steel that they found. Okay, so it may be that they found fragments of this meteor, but the thing is that it's like the writing is really beautiful, and it often kind of ends in like this lovely little bit. Like, so for instance, in this one that I'm reading out to you, it ends with, as Richard Feynman noted, the pleasure of doing science is in finding things out. That's nice, isn't it? And there's little bits and bobs about, him kind of jogging on the boat and stuff. So he's on this boat called the, what's it called? The Silver Star, I think, yeah? Something like that. Yeah, some kind of star. So anyway, it's flagged, linked in the episode description. So check it. So thank you ever so much for listening. Now, this is a kind of ongoing, rolling news story essentially at the moment. So it may be that we're going to put another episode up in the next couple of, well, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Like certainly soon, certainly within the week. And one thing that I do want to be doing is at some point kind of like step back a little bit and start to kind of analyze all of this, rather than kind of the rush, just kind of reporting on, if you like, or discussing the rush of information that's come out. But thank you ever so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Of course, if you want to, please do follow me on Twitter and follow me on what's it called? Instagram. And if you also want to, you can subscribe to the subscription episodes, which are often quite short and sometimes like my kind of first reaction to things, or me just thinking about other things, or slightly kind of off-piste, if you like. But also there's 4 movie reviews there as well. So if you do subscribe, you're going to get access to 8 episodes. I think it's 8 episodes so far. Yep. And thanks ever so much. See you later.